Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. This is Scott Reisch from Crime Talk. Thanks for watching. First on the docket, Lori Vallow has a jury trial date. Second, a mystery surrounds a fatal Riverside County marijuana grow. Third, an intruder lurks around the mansion of Eminem. Fourth, an update on a Mississippi case that went all the way to the United States Supreme Court. The search for Suzanne Morphew continues, or does it? A husband is arrested in a terrible Oklahoma case, the cold case of the day from Pennsylvania, and our dumb criminal contestant of the day. Let's talk about it. Good day, Crime Talk viewers and listeners. Thanks for watching and thanks for listening on the podcast. If you haven't done so already, we would ask if you hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and as always, leave us a comment about what we discuss below. First on the docket, Lori Vallow. She has finally made it to her arraignment, and she has entered a plea of not guilty to the 2 felony charges that she has. The trial will finally go to court on April 2nd of 2021. Can you believe it? There'll be a pretrial conference on March 22nd of 2021. And somewhere in between those dates, motions that have already been filed and more motions that will in fact be filed will have a motions hearing date. Now, the one motion that's already been filed as it relates to the joinder of the trials between Lori Vallow and her husband, Chad Daybell, has not been heard. In fact, the judge who heard the case today, a Judge Watkins, although mentioned if there's any pretrial motions that need to be heard right away, neither the prosecutor, Mr. Woods, nor the defense counsel for Lori Vallow, Mr. Means, said that any issues had to be resolved today. So now we have a situation where we have 2 matters with co-defendants that the evidence will be nearly identical, set between 2 different judges on 2 different trial dates. The courts need to get together sooner rather than later and decide the issue for joinder. It makes sense. It just makes good judicial economy. Not to mention, it's going to help both sides keep their own attorney's fees down. Because guess what? The attorney for either side is going to have to be at the other one's motions hearings date if they are in fact not together, which means added expense for the defendants. Now, a lot of people don't care, but those are one of the factors that you have to think about as a criminal defense attorney. The prosecutor doesn't care. He gets paid twice a month, whether he needs the money or not. So it really doesn't matter to him, but he only wants to do this job once. Why? Because he's not getting paid by the hour. He gets a flat salary, whether he works on 1 case or 400 cases. One of the things you may have noticed at the arraignment today was that it was via Zoom. And if you watch the video that we did live, the air was not ours, it was Zoom. Apparently, the judge may need a little faster computer in the courtroom because it kept freezing. In fact, one of Mr. Means' comments to the court was, "Judge, you froze and we didn't hear all of your comments." That was specifically when he was advising the defendant, Ms. Vallow, of her options of how to proceed today. They obviously waived further reading or advisement, and through her counsel, Lori Vallow entered a plea of not guilty to all counts in the complaint and information. Now, it never seems to surprise me, only on these high-profile cases. Normally, when you say, "Judge, we waive further reading or advisement of the charges," then the judge says, "Okay, how do you plead? Let's move along." Only in cases that are considered high-profile do the judges want to make sure they advise the defendant, as the judge did today with Lori Vallow, of what she's charged with and the maximum penalties. I guess even the judges want their 15 minutes of fame. So now this case may go silent for a little while as we wait for further filings by both the prosecution and defense counsel. We'll keep you updated as new developments come about. Next on the docket, the mystery surrounds a fatal attack at a Riverside County marijuana grow house. That's right. The authorities are still investigating the shooting deaths of 7 people at a marijuana growing facility in a remote corner of Riverside County. The police believe that many or multiple assailants were involved. Few details are still known at this point, but the case is not going to be easy, according to the Riverside County Sheriff. When the police arrived, it became very obvious that this was a large-scale illegal marijuana grow and processing center, according to the police. The police found hundreds of plants, a makeshift greenhouse, a lab for using butane to extract valuable THC from plants, and more than 1,000 pounds of processed marijuana with a street value of roughly $1 million. So apparently the people were not necessarily that concerned about the product as they took out the people involved in the operation. There are no leads that the police are reporting at this particular time, but I can tell you this looks like some sort of retaliation since the product was still found at the scene. A lot of people may wonder, why in the heck are there still illegal grow facilities since marijuana is legal in the state of California? Well, the reason why they still do that, like in many states where it's legal, most people won't tell you this, but there is still a huge black market, even in states where it is legal. That's right. Why? Because the price has dropped so low that the people growing this stuff can't get the prices that they need in the legal states. So guess what? It goes out the back door and is shipped out to states where it's still illegal. I've handled several cases like this that have been prosecuted. The ironic thing is that when the prosecution goes forward, the state really isn't that concerned about the marijuana. No, what they want is their tax money. The cases are usually brought by the Attorney General, who works in the tax division, and they're suing for the lost revenue that would have come into this state. So it confirms what we've talked about before. And if you look at the video, the 12 undeniable truths, according to a criminal defense attorney, yes, one of those undeniable truths is it's always about the money. And when they say it's not about the money, it's always about the money. Hence the reason why marijuana is legal in so many places. It wasn't because people said, wow, it has great medicinal effects all of a sudden. It's been used in cancer patients and people with other ailments for years. But the states finally said, wow, we're really broke and we're going to help the children, so let's legalize it. So just remember, ladies and gentlemen, it's always about the money. Next on the docket, an intruder is lurking around Eminem's mansion. That's right. The musician Eminem had an unwanted visitor by the name of Matthew David Hughes, 27. He's seen outside on the video where he walks up to the house, tries to enter through some doors that are fortunately locked. Then he stood over the sleeping rapper before allegedly threatening to kill him. Now, this goes back into April, but the video was in fact just released. Mr. Hughes has been charged with home invasion and malicious destruction of property for using a brick to smash one of the windows where he ultimately gained entrance. Now, Eminem, who initially thought that the intruder was his nephew, asked why Hughes was there. He was told by Mr. Hughes that he was there to kill him. Mr. Hughes is being held on a $50,000 bond, which he's been unable to make since April 6th, the date of his arrest. His next court appearance is scheduled for September 28th of this year. Now, this is somewhat ironic since the fact that Mr. Hughes is the real-life Stan. Eminem has a song that depicts the tale of an obsessive fan who becomes a stalker and kills the rapper's pregnant girlfriend after he doesn't respond to his fan mail. This was a big hit back in 2000. The character of Stan has since been referenced in several of Eminem's other songs and has become a self-given badge of honor in pop culture for artists' eager fans. So in this particular case, Stan, a.k.a. Matthew Hughes, little creepy for sure. If you have a Stan or someone else in your life, guess what? You need to go to Crime Talk Alarm right now and sign up for SonaSafe. That's right. No need to have a complete stranger come into your home and install an alarm. In just a few minutes, you can have SonaSafe running and protecting your entire residence without the need of a professional installer. SonaSafe provides only the highest quality security cameras with 1080p HD recording, motion detection, two-way communication, and superior night vision. You also get to sleep well at night with SonaSafe's 24/7 national monitoring. SonaSafe's emergency operators are fully trained and ready to work around the clock to keep you safe. You would be notified via a mobile application while the operators contact the police. You don't need any stands walking around your house at night, and you don't need them trying to get in the house. But when you discover them on the video, guess what? You want to make sure you're protected. Go to crimetalkalarm.com. Get your SonaSafe home protection system now. You'll be happy you did. Next on the docket, an update on a case that we talked about several months ago from Mississippi that went all the way to the United States Supreme Court. I said then that I didn't think the Attorney General who was going to take the case over would prosecute this case, and I was correct. That's right. Curtis Flowers, the man, 6 times prosecutors tried him, a black man from Mississippi, for the same murder charges to a mostly white jury. And 6 times the trials ended with convictions that were later reversed or a mistrial was declared. But on last Friday, 2 decades after prosecutors began pursuing murder charges against Mr. Flowers, they announced finally that they were dropping the case. The prosecutor filed a memo with the court saying that the Mississippi Attorney General's office, quote, in the interest of justice, that the state will not seek an unprecedented 7th trial of Mr. Flowers. Now, Mr. Flowers is now 50 years old, and he said in a statement through his attorneys that he had never given up on the idea that the case would one day be over. Mr. Flowers also stated, quote, today I am finally free from the injustice that left me locked in a box for 23 years. Now, Mr. Flowers had been accused of the 1996 killing of 4 people in a furniture store in Winona, a small Mississippi town. The 6 trials for Mr. Flowers took place over more than 2 decades. The trials of Mr. Flowers drew attention to the way that black jurors had largely been excluded by a white prosecutor who oversaw all of the 6 trials. Through Mr. Flowers' trials, 61 of the 72 jurors were white. In the most recent trial, Mr. Flowers was actually convicted and sentenced to death, but his lawyers appealed the conviction to the United States Supreme Court, which ruled last year that the prosecutor, Doug Evans, had unconstitutionally kept black people from serving on the jury. Mr. Evans, the prosecutor, recused himself from this case back in January, and the Mississippi Attorney General took the case over. In the memorandum filed by the Mississippi Attorney General, they stated the reason for it was the fact that some of the witnesses were either no longer available or the fact that one of their key witnesses had been convicted of tax fraud and had since died. Another witness who once claimed that Mr. Flowers had actually confessed to the crime in jail later admitted that he had in fact been lying. Needless to say, those are not good facts for a prosecutor to go forward on, particularly on a case for a 7th time. There is no way to know for sure exactly what happened, but you have to give a man a fair trial. And excluding black jurors is not a way to give a black man a fair trial. Some of the best prosecutors I've ever seen will simply say, my case is so powerful, you give me the first 12 jurors and they will convict. And any prosecutor worth their salt is not going to try and get rid of jurors of that particular defendant's nationality or race. There's rules against that. Supreme Court says you can't do it. And when the United States Supreme Court says that the prosecutor has unconstitutionally discriminated against the defendant, that's not how you want to be known as a lawyer, that's for sure. So hopefully Mr. Flowers can get on with what remains of his life, and good luck. Next on the docket, Suzanne Morphew. The search continues. Or does it? 4 months have now passed since anyone has seen or heard from a Chaffee County wife and mother. That's right, Suzanne Morphew. She was reported missing on May 10th of 2020, exactly on Mother's Day. The sheriff in this particular case has issued few written updates and has actually refused to speak to most of the media to offer clarification or to confirm or deny posts by people close to the Suzanne Morphew family or her husband that basically there is no ongoing search or investigation for Suzanne Morphew. Barry Morphew, the husband of Suzanne Morphew, states that he was about 160 miles away from the Morphew family home on Mother's Day. He said that he was working in Broomfield, Colorado, staying at a hotel, literally a hop, skip, and a jump here from the Crime Talk studios. Mr. Morphew states that he rushed home as soon as he received the call and had a coworker come and stay at the hotel where he was residing at. The coworker has given interviews and stated that the hotel room smelled like bleach and there were lots of wet towels in the room. Now, Barry Morphew says, yeah, this guy did work for me, and he didn't take any initiative and didn't do any work, but he too also noticed the strong odor of bleach, so don't blame it on me. Suzanne Morphew's family has continued to try and do the search by having volunteers and other people in the area continue to look for Suzanne Morphew. On September 24th, there is actually a volunteer search that will begin in Salida. It's unclear whether the Chaffee County Sheriff's Department is actually going to participate in that particular search. It's also unclear whether Barry Morphew will be involved in that search as well. The sheriff has ultimately said that he has had 100 personnel searching for Suzanne Morphew, which included search by air, water, dogs, and obviously on the land. It's also very unfortunate to note that, according to the Colorado Bureau of Investigations, there are currently 1,340 missing person cases in the state of Colorado, and 579 of those individuals have been missing for more than a year. So hopefully there'll be a break in this case soon because it doesn't seem like there's much progress. However, let's be fair, the sheriff has a lot of territory to cover, not to mention a lot of leads to follow up on. But at some point, it is literally like searching for a needle in a haystack. Next on the docket, a tragic case out of Oklahoma. 4 months after his 48-year-old wife was found dead, a 71-year-old Oklahoma man has been charged with the first-degree murder of his wife. That's right, the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation arrested Jeffrey Pierce and was taken into custody regarding the death of his wife, Ronnie Renee Fitzpatrick Pierce. It's alleged that Mr. Pierce stabbed Ronnie, his wife, multiple times during a domestic violence incident in the home. It's not exactly clear why it took 4 months for the police actually to charge Mr. Pierce. And his deceased wife's sister-in-law, a woman by the name of Robin Morgan, said that Ronnie was a great mother, grandmother, and she actually was a person who loved sports. But she also stated that she begged her sister not to marry Mr. Pierce, that now the man accused of killing her. She had a fear that something terrible would happen to her sister. Other than a domestic violence case, there is no indication as to a motive. We'll continue to follow that case as it develops. Let's take a quick recess. Just like in that last case, if you have a feeling that perhaps something is just not right about a particular person, what can you do? Do you just rely upon that hunch and not go forward with it, or do you investigate it? Well, most of our audience is going to investigate it. And what's one of the best ways that you can investigate somebody? That's right. Go to CrimeTalkSearch.com, sign up for a background investigative search. And when you do that, there's a nominal fee involved, but you can cancel at any time. You will have a report generated within minutes of the person that you search. And this search is done completely anonymously. And that report is going to contain information specifically regarding emails that are associated with the person you're searching, phone numbers of the individual that you're searching. So although they may have given you one phone number, they could have 2, 3, or 4 numbers that are associated with them. You'll receive information regarding social media associated with that person. And more importantly, you'll get information regarding criminal background records, including sex offender registration. You will also receive information about property records and, probably most importantly, for the world that we live in, marital records. Are they in fact really divorced? Go to CrimeTalkSearch.com, satisfy those concerns that you have. Check them out. Don't just go on your hunch. Go to CrimeTalkSearch.com, sign up for your background subscription search today. You'll be happy you did. Next on the docket, our cold case of the day comes from Pennsylvania, specifically West Manchester Township in York, Pennsylvania. On November 18th of 2013, tree trimmers stumbled upon the human skeletal remains on the side of a road at a busy intersection of Haviland Road and Luke's Road. That's in West Manchester Township, York, Pennsylvania. The bones were that of a white male and either Caucasian, Asian, Hispanic, or a combination of all three. Forensic scientists estimate that the individual was 30 to 50 years of age and stood 5'3" to 5". Evidence of trauma on the bones led officials to classify the death as a homicide. The investigators found with the remains a partial upper denture plate belonging to the man. Based on isotope testing of the bones, investigators believe the man lived in the U.S. as a youth, most likely in the southern states. If anyone has information that they think could lead possibly to the identification of this particular individual, we urge them to contact Officer Lance Kraut of the West Manchester Township Police. Their phone number is 717-792-9514. Next on the docket, our dumb criminal contestant of the day. Please meet Hu Nguyen, a 54-year-old Memphis, Tennessee resident who has become known as a habitual 911 dialer. That's right. He began dialing 911 from his cell phone in mid-July. Well, those calls have logged a total of 1,171 calls to 911, and guess what? He didn't have an emergency. Most of the calls were him asking if they wanted to buy some egg rolls. Then the line was disconnected. Things got a little carried away this past week when Mr. Nguyen called 911 241 times. Now, we've heard of habitual offenders, but Mr. Nguyen has several prior convictions for misusing the emergency dispatch system, and he has been, in fact, branded a habitual 911 abuser. Now, when Mr. Nguyen was arrested outside of a business that he was patronizing, they also seized his phone. So hopefully he won't be able to get a new phone, or maybe he has to use a payphone next time. If he could still find a payphone, at least it would cost him some money to make those calls. But Mr. Nguyen, that's right, you are our dumb criminal contestant of the day, and obviously a high repetitious learner. That's right. One of these days you're going to get it. And Mr. Nguyen, if you in fact are the dumb criminal contestant of the week, we will send you a Crime Talk mug. If you would like Crime Talk merchandise but don't want to become a dumb criminal contestant of the week, guess what? Simply hit the link below, takes you right to Teespring. Bam, you pick what you want, and it is shipped to you within a few days. That's all we have for you today. Thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.